And we are live. I'm here with Tim Ventura, who is the host of the APEC conference, which is the Alternative Propulsion Engineering Conference. Tim, welcome to the Alien Scientist channel. We mirror and host the APEC conference here live when we can. Try not to have audio glitches. Sometimes that happens, but is everything what are we here today for? We're here to talk about papers. We want to relaunch the APEC conference. We had a kind of an end to the APEC conference. We felt it was kind of running a little bit too frequently. Would you agree?
Yeah.
We were kind of burning out a lot of the guests, and we want to kind of bring it back as maybe a more a monthly or annual thing. What's the idea here when we bring it back?
Well, if it's okay, let me start with a shameless promotion for the conference. Let me ask
Okay.
everybody to visit altpropulsion.com. Again, that's altpropulsion.com and sign up for our announcement list, right? And this helps the conference. This also helps you. I mean, this helps pretty much everybody. So the more people that we get involved, the better. And, even if you can't attend the conference, I mean, we host these on Saturdays. Usually it starts at noon Pacific. Even if you're not able to attend, we're still going to send you replay info, right? And so people can watch that like on the Alt Propulsion channel. As you've said, you rebroadcast this, which is seriously like totally awesome, seriously awesome. So with those rebroadcasts, they can watch that on your channel. But again, if they're able to go to altpropulsion.com and register, that does us a solid favor because that helps us grow things. You can see I've already got June 10th listed. I'm really excited. We are going to blow things up. We are basically overhauling everything. And in fact, we're looking at changing our format. We're looking at going to StreamYard, which is what you and I are on right now, and doing actually two different types of sessions. I was talking about this with Mark Sokol, and one of the challenges that we had was mixing the presenters and the discussion. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have presentations on Saturdays like normal, right? And again, one of the things that makes APEC so special is we have been able to have all of the big names in this area. I mean, there are just a handful of people who haven't been on the conference yet. So we're going to continue having them doing updates and presentations on breakthrough propulsion and UAP. And then we're also going to do an open mic night. And we're probably going to do that in the evenings, and that's going to be more the open discussion because what we found is, more people are able to attend and have free time for that. And it's really something where you don't want to have those pressures during the day. So we're looking at doing that in the early evenings, so it'll probably be like every 2 weeks we have, the main presentation, and then like alternate weeks we have open mic night. So that's kind of what we're looking at. But thanks for letting me promote it, man.
There's a question: Will this all be live on YouTube, and can I stream it here on this channel as well as I've done in the past?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, this is.
So,
I mean, this is not. I should probably this, but just for the audience, this is a community-based project, right? This is not anybody's like commercial whatever. This is about disclosure. It's about getting the word out. It's about getting people involved. And my hope is that this is the rising tide that lifts all ships,
Right on. Yes, I wanted to point out that sometimes I have audio glitches, as I mentioned in the opening there during the conference, so that people have missing pieces when they're watching the conferences on my channel. They can go and find those sometimes if they go back onto the website here and find the recorded versions that Tim has are straight from Zoom, and they don't have an intermediary that I'm using like StreamYard, where sometimes I hit the mute button on accident or something happens. So just know that those are live, and I'm hosting them through a third-party program, and I will continue to do so in the future.
Yeah, Jeremy, you have been a critical part of this conference. I mean, I know it sounds like I'm brand nosing, but I'm serious. You have been a critical part of this. You have been out there scouting these technologies and doing interviews with key figures and just basically being a repository for knowledge for what, like 15 years straight, just continuous straight through. Nobody else is done that at your level. And so, I mean, what you
Well,
have brought.
there are guys that have done it. They're just not very public. Ronk, for example, he probably has me beat, but he's not. He's just not doing it publicly and as and out there as I am. So I'm really trying to introduce this to a larger audience and bring it out to more people and get more of the academic and scientific and public community, engineering and whatnot involved, because it really is going to end up being a community effort that goes into this. There's a lot of advancement going on right now in the world, and a lot of talk on experts on AI, and whether we can use what we can use AI for. So basically, AI is this tool that enables us to have 10 times to a million times the computing power or calculation power that we normally have at our disposal. So we can get AI to ask questions and answer problems for us that might take us years to go through and try all these different things we can get AIs to do. So one of the recent discussions that we've been having with the APEC behind, since we closed and have restarted. So behind the scenes, everything's kind of want some of this stuff to be open to the public, about what's going on. We're trying to, we're basically hiring a bunch of programmers, including, computer scientists to write an AI program to analyze our database. And some of the problems that we run into is the database that we have, trying to clean the data that we feed it and, get the best data in there. We have a huge database of all this information that we've compiled on, exotic physics and propulsion and technology and stuff. We want to program an AI to sort of figure out gravity and gravity control for us. So some of these solutions and stuff. And there's a couple different ways that we've looked into doing that so far. One of the guys we got to get on, by the way, I think
Mirabeau.
He's under NDA, but I'm about this John Lewis guy as his co-author. I'd like to look into him a little bit. But yeah, Lake Marabou would be interesting to look into because it started out with NASA and this, Star Wars SDI program out of Rensselaer Polytech. And they did a lot of research in the 90s, 80s, 90s, and beyond into these laser propelled craft. And I think at some point they must have gotten to the, notion or idea about this, to go back in history to 1955 with John Archibald Wheeler, where he wrote about in a paper on the geons. He talked about the Kugelblitz. The Kugelblitz is this idea that if you concentrate enough heat or light or radiation so intense inside one point, it creates an event horizon. Becomes self-trapped. In other words, enough radiation is aimed into a region of space that the concentration of energy can warp space-time so much that it creates a black hole. And I think this leads into the research that's been done. John Archibald Wheeler, of course, was involved in a lot of top secret physics research of the era, H-bomb, for example. But this thing is, I think, relates to these toy models of particles, idea of this it from bit, the idea of creating these mini black holes by concentrating energy inside of these materials. And so we're trying to basically program the AI to figure out the material science end of it for us and also the physics end of it and stuff. So I think that we're on the verge of something. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, I'm all for this because these are 21st century technologies, right? And in these communities, one of the things that I've seen, I've been into this area off and on for like 20 something years. one of the things that I've seen is you have a lot of older scientists, right? And they've got kind of an old school approach to things, and they're really good at physics. They're really good at their narrow little, like, box of information, their specialization. But when it comes to stuff like, communication, collaboration, using modern tools to solve problems, they're just not there. And so by adding in new school stuff, right? Like Chat GPT. I mean, that is, we're using that for like press releases and marketing stuff for the conference. I did one the other day, and it's amazing. I mean, Chat GPT 4, it was like, hey, I don't have time to write this press release to send out to these media people for the conference. Can you write one for me? I gave it some parameters. The thing comes back with like this perfect press release, and I'm just like, okay, perfect. Let's get this out the door, So, I mean, in terms of where these technologies are and where they're going, it adds so much leverage. Another one is data analytics. I have an interview that I'm going to be publishing on my channel with a fellow named Don Dadaya, and he is a Python programmer. I think you met him the other day, and he took the New Fork database and he basically parsed it out, and he's starting to look for trends in that, right? And so that's something where for folks who aren't familiar with it, Peter Davenport out in, I think, the Spokane area, has been collecting UFO reports for like 30, 40 years. And it's the National UFO Reporting Center. They have a database with 80,000 reports in it. And when I asked him about this years ago, and he sent me a copy of it, and I looked through it, and it's like, okay, what can I do with this? Because it's not, it's kind of, they just kind of made up the standards, right? It's like triangle, fireball, disc, sphere, So what Don is doing is he's taking that database and using AI basically to break it down and analyze it, and he's graphing that out. And so again, I'm going to be publishing an interview on this on my channel here in the near future. But these new school tools give us enabling, I mean, they enable basically breakthroughs that might not otherwise happen.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, the power that these technologies are bringing to the field, and I think that having these tools at our fingertips are going to be the key to the future. I think I kind of like talked about this about a year ago. I think it was like 3 years back that Susskind, I think it was on Lex Friedman or one of these podcasts, and Leonard Susskind was talking about how Google was hiring him to train their AI in physics. And so Google was onto this idea, years ago. Well, we could train AI to do physics, and see if it can pass a GRE, see if it can pass a standardized exam like a college student would have to. And if it can do that, then we might be onto something. So if we can get 100% on all those physics tests, and work is going on with that currently to integrate with the new Wolfram Alpha architecture, because that allows the AI to analyze math equations and understand math equations too. So it can read papers and then take the math equation, the visual symbol of it, and then be like, oh, well, this is an integral or an indefinite integral, and be able to solve those solutions and understand the math and keep track of it in a Wolfram Alpha style library as well. So there's lots of interesting programming going on right now in this field, and it's kind of cool to dive into it, because you start looking into it, and you're like, wow, I'm not the first person that's thought of this. I thought I had this ingenious idea that we're going to use AI to do this, and it's like, well, it turns out that it's a lot of people have thought of this before, and done a lot further than us already. So according to Todd Desiato, though, Todd ran, I got to get Todd on here. I don't know if
Todd was actually the person who did my press releases. He's the one he's Chat GPT master now. So I asked Todd, I said, Todd, look at this page, come up with this, send it over. And he's like, yeah. And what he came back with, I'm just like, that's amazing. So
So I'm going to send
Yeah.
this to Todd right now.
This year has been amazing. I mean, and crazy, right? I mean, the pandemic was crazy. I've still got like a garage full of toilet paper from the pandemic. But
I think
but now we're shooting.
Oh, you still got a garage full of toilet paper?
Yeah, no, I got like the super king size industrial pack, right? Because when times were tough, that was all I could get. But it's only single ply, so I'll never use it.
Oh,
but
man.
But when you get into this year, we're shooting down balloons. We have 2 new UAP stories that are breaking. And actually, maybe we should get into that at some point. One of them I just found out about last night.
You know what? I have it here. And
I can present too. I have those. If you want me to present on those.
You want to present? You have something to present? Because Todd put this video out, so I can actually play. I'll actually play his video because it only has 200 views on his channel. Man, I'd like to repost it to my channel, possibly.
Yeah, go for it.
9 days ago, but seeing as he's already posted it here, I might as well go ahead and play it. Let me just remove that. And, I gotta represent it with the audio. And
greetings, fellow space explorers. Welcome back to Warp Drive Tech. Today we'll uncover a groundbreaking idea in the realm of physics, the engineering model of quantum gravity. Are you ready for an interstellar adventure exploring anti-gravity, warp drive, and a whole new perspective on the universe? Strap in, because we're about to go on an incredible journey. Before we dive into the engineering model of quantum gravity, let's quickly recap the 2 titans of physics, general relativity and quantum mechanics. While both theories have been extremely successful in their respective domains, they don't quite mesh when it comes to describing gravity at the quantum level. Now imagine a completely new approach to gravity, one that doesn't rely on space-time curvature, but instead explores the idea of damping in quantum wave functions. Enter the engineering model of quantum gravity. This revolutionary model could potentially reshape our understanding of gravity and pave the way for incredible breakthroughs like anti-gravity and warp drive technology. So how does this model work? At its core, the engineering model of quantum gravity focuses on damping in quantum systems, where quantum wave functions lose coherence due to interactions with their environment. If we can show that this process leads to predictions identical to general relativity, we might have an alternative explanation for gravity and the key to unlocking anti-gravity and warp drive technologies. The exciting implications of the engineering model of quantum gravity extend beyond just a new understanding of gravity. It could also open the door to the development of anti-gravity devices and warp drive technologies, enabling us to traverse the cosmos like never before. In fact, I've already published a paper in JBIS back in November 2015 titled The Electromagnetic Quantum Vacuum Warp Drive, which is based on this exciting new model. This work offers a glimpse into the incredible potential of the engineering model of quantum gravity. Developing an alternative model for gravity is no easy task. The engineering model of quantum gravity would need to be consistent, mathematically rigorous, and capable of reproducing all known experimental results. It's a fascinating and challenging journey, but one that could potentially revolutionize our understanding of the universe and propel us into a future filled with anti-gravity and warp drive technologies. Well, that's it for today's mind-blowing episode, folks. I hope you enjoyed this thrilling exploration of the engineering model of quantum gravity and its incredible implications for anti-gravity and warp drive technologies. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Warp Drive Tech for more awe-inspiring content. Until next time, keep exploring the cosmos. Stay curious. Warp Tech out.
There's Todd. And that was
Todd's through an AI, right? An AI generated your voice?
Yeah, it was 11 Labs did the voice. I copied my voice with about 5 minutes from one of my videos, and it does a pretty good job, actually.
It does, but you know what's interesting? It sounded like it did. It sounded like you. I was like, "That's Todd's voice." I reckon, but it was weird. Like the way that it was speaking, it was like one of those grade school videos, like traffic safety. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you have two variables you can adjust. One is how much variability it has. So if you set it for little variability, it sounds very monotone. And the other is to sound more like you. And so if I set it to little variability and to sound like me, it sounds very monotonal. So I have to back off those settings. And then I think when it's like in the higher pitch range, it sounds really close. So I don't know, but yeah, it works. It's definitely
It's
faster than
awesome.
trying to record it myself.
Should I tell people that I need to? So I made that logo, the Warp Tech logo. I was like, hey Todd, maybe I can update your logo, and so I worked on a logo for him. I made a mock-up, and I was like, how's this kind of sort of look? And he's like, that's great, I'm using it. I'm like, no, wait, that's a mock-up, man. That's not like the finished product. That's not like, and so
I like it. I like it now.
okay, well, that's awesome. That's super easy to make. I was going to go back and do a bunch more, but
I have
yeah.
another video to follow this one. Working on it now. I was working on the script last night, but I have to put together some slides and stuff. I'm learning little by little how to do the slides better. I can't wait till I can get something an AI that can produce an animation when I tell it what to do.
Well,
better.
If you want to do that, I mean, it's up to Jeremy, or else I have 2 UFO videos to show too, and news.
No, I'm not talking for the conference. I'm just saying I'm working on this. This is like my goal is to put my model out there in terms that everybody can understand it. So they stop talking about space-time curvature.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy, do you think I could present for 2 seconds?
Yeah, absolutely. You go for it.
I'm not going to do audio. I'm just going to do, let me see. I'll just do share screen, and let me see. So I want to start with let me start with the orb shape one. I'll just run through that real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, this is just YouTube. Let me see. That might be a little bit better. And there we go. Okay, so this is Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, right, from Arrow. He played this at the recent briefing, and I'll rewind this. But I wanted to play the one that he showed. So this is an official government video that was played for the Senate by Sean Kirkpatrick. So this is what they're calling the Mosul orb. I'm gonna let me rewind it here.
Let me. There we go.
Okay, so you can see the orb. Basically, it's a metal sphere flying through the air.
Mm-hmm.
It's moving pretty fast. So I believe this was captured by like a drone, right? And I think probably everybody in your audience has seen this multiple times. But this is new government video. Okay. So let me stop sharing that one. And then I want to share one more real quick. This one just came out last night. And that is why I wanted to show. Okay, so there was a rumor, I guess, about the USS Omaha in 2019 being swarmed by drones. This is the radar footage. Somebody just leaked this last night. So actually somebody texted me this at like 11 at night. They're like, you got to check this out. And George Knapp was reporting on this. It's News Nation Prime. I'm not sure what station that is, but this has audio. You can hear a little bit of the crew, although most of this is just your announcers talking. And you can see there's George Knapp on the right. Mystery Wire, I guess, leaked this. So what I'm going to do is put this into chat for your audience. but they can also look up the title of it. Radar data confirms USS Omaha was surrounded by UFO swarm in 2023. So I'll stop sharing now. Okay. So that was what I got, but I thought that was really interesting because, you know, this doesn't begin and end with the 2004 sightings, right? This is like a continuing thing, and there's more that's coming. And so this disclosure is not like an event; it's a process, right? Where we're going to have more and more and more. And with the Arrow thing, that was the one where yourself and Mark Sokol were actually in that Senate hearing.
Yes,
Somebody sent some.
We went down to DC, and by the way, thank you for the super chat from Tom Radar for that trip. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Yeah, we went down to DC and got to sit through the conference. I saw it live. I mean, on the video screen, you know, when the first time they released that or showed it, you know, so I got a film of it with my video of them playing it on the laptop, but it's not as good a quality as the one you just showed. So, yeah, it seems like an interesting thing. There's a couple of these things that this balloon-like entity or a spherical could be light pumping, you know, with a layer inside there, like a trap layer of the semiconductor material where you can trap light in the form of exciton inside of an electronic structure. So there is a lot of physics supporting this, is what we've been talking about on this channel for a while, and trying to interview more scientists who are involved in this and get more of the experts out there on it. Of course, you know, some of these guys haven't agreed to come on the show. Did Victor Podolsky ever he was one of the guys that wrote a paper on this idea of using you know, dielectric between two mirrors to trap light and produce, you know, exciton polaritons. So you know, we need more people like that are actually, you know, building this kind of stuff and testing it out, because the idea is yeah, I like those road trips, man. And if we get more scientists that have labs and stuff, I'm willing to take more road trips and go out and meet more people and do events and stuff. And
Jeremy, did you see the info I sent you about polaritons that I pulled out of ChatGPT?
Yeah. I actually wanted to bring you on to talk about that because you know, it's not been posted anywhere, and I was going to read it, but I was like, oh, I don't want to do this without Todd unless.
It's just, you know, I was curious, so I started asking it about polaritons and what can we do to measure them and do experiments, and it gave me a whole rundown procedure of what needs to be done to do it. I was like, cool.
Yeah, number one, choose a suitable material.
On it.
You have to fabricate a microcavity, optically or electrically excite the system, detect and analyze the polaritons. 5, control experimental parameters. And then, you know, basically you go from there and you got yourself. Those are the 5 steps.
Yep. It's
Who
a place.
Who knew it could be so simple?
You know what I mean? It's a good place to start. It gives you a good idea of what you need. And did you see this morning? I guess Aiden and Mark tested my sonic thruster idea for the Grab-a-Flyer as a sonic thruster, and it worked. They saw,
I saw that video.
They saw at least 250 millinewtons of thrust, which is more than we've seen from anything we've tested to date.
Let me find that.
You know,
did he post it on?
I put it on Warp Drive Tech on my channel.
I mean, if I could like speak to where all of this is going, it seems like when I built my little soundproof studio, you know, I was like, you know what, I want to level up everything, right? Because we agreed, hey, we're going to bring the conference back. I was like, I want to look better than I've ever looked before, you know. And then I started to realize all of this stuff is leveling up. And so like in terms of Todds Research, I mean, you know, in the past, your mainstream scientists could poo-poo it and say, no, this will never work, this can't happen, yada yada yada. Well, I mean, those UFO UAP videos demonstrate that something is going on, right? And that is increasing. So the UAP phenomena itself, this disclosure phenomena, is increasing, and the public awareness is rising. And that leads back to stuff like APEC. It leads back to Jeremy's legacy of like 15 years of research and publishing on this. It leads back to Todds Research, right? Because okay, we know that these things are possible. Nobody can say, well, you know, you can't fly without a propeller, because hey, we're looking at it. It's happening. We've got it on camera. It's in, you know, in the US Senate. So it's there. Now we just have to figure out, how can we recreate this? And you know, and then one of the things for me is,
Bigger is
you know,
better.
a lot of people, well, a lot of people have this confrontational idea also with like rockets, right? With New Space, with Elon Musk, all that. They're like, you know, it's us or them, right? In the past, I think when there was less funding, there was definitely that idea. But I look at it as a progression, right? What Elon Musk is doing right now with Starship is really cool. And I think it's really valuable because it gets people interested in space. It gets them interested in exploring the cosmos. But it's not the end, right? It's just another step. And again, coming back to like the work that Todd is doing right now, that's the next Starship. Now, who knows when? I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, who can tell? But that's where it's going. So my hope is that what we're doing with APEC fits into this as a part of something that's larger, you know?
Yep. Well, I mean, we've been baffled about the Graviflyer for over 2 years now. And the equations that ChatGPT helped me with show that the most likely way to get that thing off the ground is with sound. And like I say, this thing right now is just the first test. We need to get the output up to about 120, 130 decibels, really freaking loud. And then it would lift its own weight.
More subtle mechanics to this. Yeah, it's about that power that you have to dissipate or transfer with the waves.
Yeah.
Did it filter out the sound? Because the reason I ask is Mark called me while it was running, and it was on my car phone. Yeah, I swear to God, I almost went off the road. He's like, and he was shouting. He's like, Tim, it's working, it's moving. You gotta see this. And I'm like swerving all. I'm like, ah!
It's like you're getting LRADed in your ear.
But the goal is on the top of it. We need to put the speaker on the top inside, not outside underneath it. And then it'll act like a resonant chamber and parabolic dish, which will amplify the gain and give us at the, you know, hopefully over 130 dB at the focal point, which then it would lift off. But I don't know how smooth that parabolic dishes are inside. Mark made them at the lab, spun them on a lathe, and he's still working on it. I don't think taping it together with duct tape is helping. It needs to be welded. You know, but
it probably doesn't have to be perfect. It probably,
like I say, if you want it to lift off, it's got to be pretty darn near perfect. It's got to have a very high Q for a resonant chamber. So, but what he demonstrated in the first video with the scale is it went from 5.77 to 5.747. So it's about 250 millinewtons a thrust, which is awesome. So anyway, that's great.
Now you had said you chatted us all about this, and you were saying that for a larger craft, it's actually going to be a lower frequency, right?
Yeah.
So it's a probably bigger the transducer and all that stuff too.
Yeah. Although, I mean, the fundamental is a lower frequency. Any of these cavities could have a harmonic that works very well at a higher frequency. It's just a matter of getting it to resonate and where the Q is the highest and you can get the highest decibel output. Now, if we can get something to work at like 22, 30 kilohertz, then you won't hear it. So it's right now we're working with audible frequencies. So I'm glad they did that.
It's a good test. It's exciting. And this is the kind of stuff that makes APEC so unique, right? This is kind of a crossover conference. I mean, it has, I think it's the best of both worlds. It has theory, it has UAP analysis and reverse engineering. It also has like nuts and bolts, hands-on building stuff. So
Cool, man. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, that was really cool. I'm glad you've become the master of this Chat GPT.
Yeah, I'm working on it. It's fun.
Todd has skills. Todd has skills, dude. I was thinking about the other day. I was like, what can I pester Todd to do for me? What if you did you could do breakdowns on different, you know what I mean? Like find me everything about inertial propulsion and write an article.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have access to the internet. It's got to be in its database. And if it's, it's got to be trained on it. And it's trained on the physics books, not so much the articles and papers.
Mm.
So it's very, it gives me textbook answers for things. But then I ask it, consider this and explain how it would work. And it does it. But it's doing it from the first principles of physics to give me an answer. It's not looking things up. So it's
right.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've gotten into some of the finer details of the because I guess like they're not doing that one anymore. You're going to do like a different type of like pine cone or something. And
yeah,
brother's explaining it all to me. He's a programmer and all that side of it. But maybe we'll do a conference and do more discussion on that AI side of it. But it seems like right now, what our goal is to clean and organize the data. So it's basically taking our data set and then going through it and eliminating the junk and the stuff that was, false positives that were later figured out.
Ideally, we would get like a Chat GPT that's trained on all the UAP papers and stuff so that, it can know all that material and then look for connections and things. So, it's one of our side jobs that we're working on. And, and right now I want to get a few more videos out about the engineering model of quantum gravity. And it's essentially, a alternative interpretation of Einstein's equation. And essentially, people know the Einstein tensor tells us about the curvature of space-time. And what my model essentially reinterprets that to say this is the relationship between measurements taken with rulers and clocks that are affected by the energy stress momentum tensor and not space-time. Space-time isn't affected. Space-time is hypothetical, so to speak. It's the rulers and clocks we use to measure it that are affected. And once we understand this and we stop trying to quantize empty space and start realizing how quantum mechanics leads to gravity, we'll make progress. Right now, we've been led down a garden trail of geometry that doesn't exist except in the mind of the mathematicians. And so that's what I'm trying to promote, is an alternative view of gravity that allows us to do things as engineers, not just as mathematicians and physicists.
Yeah, Todd, I don't have your level of physics knowledge, but there are a lot of things that trouble me about physics. Philosophically speaking, there are a lot of things that trouble me about it too. I mean, like one of them is, they go into a particle collider and create new particles, right? And then it's like, okay, well, this is a new fundamental particle, but it only exists at, these high energy levels. And then they go back in, they create more, and they're, but the whole idea was, the whole idea with the atom, right, it was like the single smallest indivisible unit of matter. And then they found the subatomic particles from there. And it's almost like this rabbit hole they've been going down. I know Feynman had complained about it. It's really inelegant. And
It,
that there's
it
this,
was a rabbit hole in the 70s. You know, once they came up with quarks and quantum chromodynamics, it all makes sense now, and it's very well laid out to me anyway. And it's all very well laid out now, and it's all in there. It's just a matter of gravity isn't in there because we've been led down the garden path to believe it's geometry, not quantum mechanics.
Well, do you see gravity as like a shadow force then? Is that
it's emergent from what we know of quantum mechanics. It's not something else. It's not an additional field. It's part of the standard model. All you have to do is take the standard model and add damping, and you have gravity. And damping is a natural occurrence when you've got all these particles interfering with each other.
Yeah, conglomerate of multiple interactions, and that's exactly how, you know, models have described it, where they take like a wave pool with two boats in it, and the waves are damped between the two boats through the equivalent of a maritime Casimir effect.
Yeah.
And that causes the boats to gradually be pushed by the forces of the waves on the outside of the boat.
This is happening with every single atom and subatomic particle on the Earth. You know, it's all a giant interference pattern that damps the wave functions, which allows them, or, you know, wants them to fall toward the ground to minimize their energy. It's just natural, but it's part of quantum mechanics. It's not space-time curvature. Curvature is just what we measure because we're using rulers and clocks affected by it. And so, you know, once we can get this across to engineers and other physicists, and hopefully someday universities, we'll make progress on these things. But right now, we're like children playing with our blocks, you know, our toy blocks.
So what about the speed of light? One of the things that I've heard, the description that I've heard is that the speed of light is basically the propagation speed through the vacuum, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the fastest you can go. And one of these ideas about, like, you know, in relativity theory, right? C is the fundamental limit, is because Einstein set it as the fundamental limit and then basically built the model around that. And so, you know, when you establish this value and you say, okay, this is as fast as you can go and you can't go any faster, and it's like an exponential curve in energy to get there, right? That's the whole idea with C. You know, that limits you in relativity. But one of the things that I've always wondered is, what if it's just the propagation speed, like the speed of sound, right? Remember, and they said you can't go faster than the speed of sound, your plane will break up. Oh God, everybody gets scared, you know. And then they did it, and they're like, oh, look at that, you can, you know. Do you think the speed of light is similar to that, Todd?
No, it's variable. It's variable. It's what's going on is in special relativity, he set it as a limit because in that context, which is a fallacy, it's a limit. But when you look at general relativity, it's not a limit. It's a parameter, but it's not a limit. And in fact, if you interpret general relativity from my model's point of view, the speed of light is a variable, and the speed of light at the surface of the Earth, or, you know, at the event horizon of a black hole, stops. And as you come away from it, farther out into deep space, the speed of light is faster. Now, in our local neighborhood, we've got the Earth, we've got the sun, we've got all the local stars and the galaxy and our local cluster, which all are the largest contributors to the speed of light here on Earth. So I believe that we can increase the speed of light, but by how much, I don't know. According to what Rick Storty has come up with, the effect of all these other masses around us, the galaxy and all of that, is a very small effect to the speed of light. So even if we got rid of all the matter in the galaxy, the speed of light would only go up a little bit. And so we want to go 200, 300 times the speed of light to get to other stars. And that's going to require a technology that basically pulls a deeper vacuum, so to speak. It makes it so that matter will expand and clocks will run fast in that region. And, I bring it up every now and then that Star Trek, when they did Voyager, had the right idea, is that when the ship jumps to warp, it's going to stretch into the horizon and then go, because it's entering a region of space where it's literally its atomic and molecular structure is expanding, and that's how it moves faster than light. So
What do you think about wormholes?
it's the same thing. It's a wormhole and a warp drive are the same thing. You're just carrying it with you.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask is
I don't think you can make 2 distant points joined by a tunnel, so to speak. That would be much harder than making a warp drive. So
yeah, because that would be like the shortcut, right? The super shortcut.
You'd have to already be there to do it. You can't do that.
Well, it looks like, again, with UAP phenomena, it looks like something has figured out how to do this. So, I mean, part of it is
I'm not convinced it's extraterrestrial. So I think more than likely it's all man-made stuff, and we just don't know who's doing it. But that's me. I'm practical. I want to see the hard evidence. I want to see the proof, and I haven't seen it yet. I was known in high school as the guy that faked the UFO photos. So
no, it's just interesting. It is so interesting to see all of this stuff, move forward too. I mean, to be honest, I'd written UFOs off years ago before all the Nimitz stuff hit the press. I'd seen so much, and I was way more skeptical than you. I was just like, this is people making up stories. I talked to a bunch of, people who claimed to have abductions and all that stuff. And I was just like, I don't see anything here that's solid. And, when the Nimitz stuff came out, it was like, okay, well, maybe, and then over time, right? It's like, okay, there's bits and pieces. And it's like, whoa. And I still struggle with that. I mean, for me, this is like, I mean, UFOs are real. But for me, that's kind of mind blowing. I guess everybody else is okay with it, but I'm the slow kid.
I feel like a lot of them are going to be identified as, black projects or exposed as, some of our technologies in the future somehow. But I think that it's going to take an effort of people like us and collaboration to like bring those technologies forward and out, because it just doesn't seem like there's any other doors or windows for that kind of disclosure to happen. So I'm all about that. And if it is aliens, then I'm ready to accept that too. If it is,
yeah, if it is, and they show themselves, and it's Vulcans can land in my backyard. I got a big backyard.
Yeah. Hey, this is a weird year. I mean, we had Bing cursing out users, right? That was Chat GPT 3.5. That was the in uncensored mode. And then we have Russia getting beat up by Ukraine. Who saw that coming, right? I mean, this enormous military power. I saw this article. It was like 5 million troops or 500,000 troops massed on the border of Ukraine. I was like, yeah, it's over. I was like, this is bad. And the Ukrainians are like beating them up like on a daily basis, which makes me wonder about all the money we spent in the Cold War. It's kind of like we spent all this money on this giant evil empire, and they're not even able to make it, to the country next door, kind of a thing. So
I got to get going. I got to get back to work. So thanks, Jeremy.
Yes. Yeah. Good time to leave before you provoke a war with Russia.
All right. Take care, man. Have a good one.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks for joining us. That was great. Yeah. So I'm glad he jumped on to talk about that, because I didn't want to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I didn't want to just share his gold without him being here for it. So that was cool. Todd's doing some great work on the AI Chat GPT.
Yeah, he's actually using it to solve problems. I mean, that's a big thing, right? I mean, writing a press release is one thing. That's just, gibberish. It's just put the words together and so they kind of make sense. But he's using it to solve real problems. That's giant.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. It's a valuable tool. I can't wait to, put it to my disposal too. So call for papers, call for more presenters and more ideas, and bringing more people out of this network. This is going to be great. It's important that people come forward and present stuff. This is an interesting article that just came up. I'm going to share this because it was brought up in the chat here, and someone sent this to me early in the week. It was a ghostwriter. Thank you for that, ghostwriter. This guy is a man named Donald Walters, who is actually a propulsion physicist, a professor of Department of Physics and Space Systems academic. No, wait, not propulsion physicist. Sorry. U.S. Army Atmospheric Sciences Laboratory. And he taught at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California. But he's 76 years old, and I guess he went missing, wandered off and on vacation or something, man. And it was only, 76 years old. This is the age of a lot of the, a lot of people that are involved in this stuff now. And it's like, before you go wandering off on vacation, you might want to consider giving Tim Ventura and us a call and come on presenting for us and talking to us and telling us what you know about, the work you're doing.
Well, what you're talking about, it is. I mean, I saw it said he suffered from Alzheimer's there.
Anything could happen. That's what I'm saying. It's not. I'm not saying that it's a conspiracy or anything, but anything could happen to anyone at any point, and it's important for us to get these people on record. In fact, one of our first presenters at the APEC conference was Mark McCandlish, and that was the last presentation Mark ever gave.
So for me, I got into industry in right around the same time the internet started, 95, right? And I've always done like web design, graphic arts, media stuff. And I've also, I got into telecom. I did that for a long time. I got into executive management and all that. Everybody who got into the sciences kind of in my age got into computer stuff, right? And you're a little bit younger than me, so it's probably more heavy on that. But like one of the things that I saw in government around the 2000s was this shift from power electronics and space and big ideas into computers. Everything was computers. It's let's make it more efficient. Let's network it. Let's get people collaborating. And there are some benefits to that, but that took us away from these big ideas. And so like a lot of the people who present at APEC, they're older because they're from that earlier era where they were actually working with those big ideas, right? I mean, the golden age of science fiction, they were inspired by that the same way that you and I were, right? But a lot of the people who were more new school, they're not. They're computer people, and that's all low power electronics. And it's, space is making a comeback, but very much in terms of rockets, it's just a different culture. So it helps to preserve that legacy because when it's gone, it's gone,
That's true. We'll never know what that guy worked on and half that stuff, man. And so it's really important for people to preserve that and just get out there. And, I'm not asking anyone to break their NDAs or leak classified information or anything, but, we need to do something more than rockets. Humanity needs to take that quantum leap to the future. And I think that AI is going to do it regardless, if it hasn't already, so.
I think we'll get there. One of the things, this is kind of tangential, but so I wrote my way through the pandemic, and this was at the beginning of it, right? I sat down to write this story in Overpopulation. And I had this same idea that everybody else did, that, the population keeps growing, the earth we're screwed, it's all going to end, and I started doing research, and I was like, I was looking for supporting stuff for it. I started finding these papers about population decline because of something like demographic transition. And it's like, as education increases, people naturally have fewer children, right? And that's actually happening right now in Japan for several different reasons. There are a bunch of things driving it. But there's a city in Japan that actually pays women to have children now because they don't have any kids. And so that's not directly related to APAC and this stuff, but the thing that got me about it was some of these things where we look at this and go, oh my God, how are we going to solve this? This is such a big issue. It's like it naturally solves itself. It naturally balances itself out over time. And I think this stuff that we're doing with APAC is the same thing, right? Where like in the moment, it feels really desperate. Like, you know, like electric cars for years. It was like government suppression. When are we ever going to have an electric car? You know, and then Tesla comes out and all of a sudden they're here and nobody's freaking out and the oil companies haven't gone out of business and, you know, life goes on, right? So I think with the work that you're doing, the work that we're doing with APAC, even with stuff like UFOs, I mean, the government flat out said UFOs are real, right? The world hasn't ended. Life goes on. So in a weird way, that's kind of inspiring because it's like these are the pieces that build towards that future that we want. And it can happen, you know? I mean, disclosure has happened, sort of, in a weird way, as much as they're able to do, you know? Electric cars have happened. They're happening. I mean, these things that were never going to be allowed to happen are happening, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and also at the same time you have the New York Post with articles saying that ufology is dead, and I think that it's kind of not dead; it's transforming, and we're taking it. I think APEC is the right path towards the future of where, you know, if you're going to study UFOs scientifically, it should be about figuring out how they work and trying to build one. You know.
Yeah.
Goal is your ultimate goal. I mean, what is the ultimate goal if you're going to study UFOs? I mean, just to get the best video, get the best footage. You know, like even then, there's got to be a goal from them is to get more data on these things, how they operate. You know, get a piece of one. You know, interact with one. You know, I don't know. There's levels to this, and the ultimate is back engineering it. You know, so. Yeah, until we've back engineered one of these things, ufology will never die. So,
yeah, I wonder if they were talking about like the cultural thing, right? Because it's, you know, you get this cultural mythology with its own stories, its own kind of shared constructs, you know, and all of this new material, all of this change and all of this public interest is definitely going to change that. I don't think it's going to kill ufology. I don't think that's the right word. I think that's just like a news headline. But yeah, is it transforming? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like look at like what the SCU, right? What they're doing. And the SCU, again, this goes back to your work. Like you've always been digging into the science and the fundamentals, you know? And I think we're going to see more and more of that. And that's going to be more public, is like trying to really understand it instead of just prove that something's going on, you know?
right. Yep. And all right. Well, I think that that's a good time to wrap this up here.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much for having me on. And again, let me just shamelessly promote the APEC conference, altpropulsion.com. Please register. We will send, again, even if you can't attend, we will get you basically info about, we're going to be doing live updates, or sorry, live open mic, as well as regular events. And we're going to send out, we usually do 2 emails for each. You know, one a few days ahead with the calendar invite, and then one the day of, just as kind of a last minute. So we don't share that. It's all confidential, you know, the whole 9 yards. It is basically just an invite list. And then I'm also working on that website. I'm putting in info about like lab partners. I think that's really valuable to put in. I mean, this is not just one group of people. This is a bunch of different groups, a bunch of different innovators, and this is like this shared dream, you know? So I mean, for me, it's an honor to be able to help this. And I know, Jeremy, I know it is for you too. I mean, this is like, in a weird way, this is like both of our life's work, right? Not all of it, but some of it.
I was 10 years old, man. You know, it's like one of those things. Yeah, so don't forget to register here to gain access to that. And you know, if you've dreamed of a better future and watched Star Wars and been like, man, that would be cool to not, you know, live in a world where only, you know, the rich people or a few astronauts can go to orbit and no one can go to live in space or go anywhere to live except for you know, the Earth. Be great if we had a moon base and Mars colonies and all these cool things. And you know, as much as I want to build these things as much as you as some other people do. So
Yeah.
hopefully,
Well, and again, this isn't the Tim show. This is your conference. This belongs to everyone. You know, this is a public conference. I mean, I moderate. That's all I do. And so, you know, if you're interested in this, if you have motivation, get involved, register for this, because this is yours. This is community conference.
heck yeah. And we hopefully get some great guests on. I look forward to hearing from you. Please email us, register for the conference, sign up, send us your work, and let's get you on this about page and on the people page and get connected with the network. All right, guys, thank you for watching, and I look forward to learning from you all. Thank you.